Well, hello everybody. Welcome in to another YouTube live show. I am John Kurtz, and I am just glowingly happy today. I feel great. I don't know if you guys had a good weekend. I had a pretty good weekend. Nice long holiday weekend filled with oh yeah, K-State beating down the rival and going to the Big 12 championship game. Yes, life is pretty good. Life is pretty good for your boy. Let me just go ahead and address the first thing I saw in the chat today. No, I will not be rooting for TCU as I spend my hard earned money, take a PTO day on Friday, and drive to Arlington to attend the Big 12 championship game. I will, in fact, be rooting for my school. That is what I will be doing. Plus, one thing we need to discuss today here is that a pretty common refrain seems to be people think TCU actually stands a legitimate chance of making the playoff with a close loss in the Big 12 title game. So, actually, what I would be doing here is rooting for the greater good of everybody. I root for TCU to lose, still make the playoff, K-State win a Big 12 championship, go to the Sugar Bowl. All will be right with the world. Okay? So that's how this is going to go this week. But look, all seriousness, man, I'm fired up. I'm fired up. It was a great night outside of the rain and 40-degree temperatures in Manhattan that I braved along with 50,000 others. But it was a great night, man. Great night. And like I told you guys, I had to withstand some crap, man. There was a Tulane loss in there, but I told you guys from the beginning of the year, I feel like K-State has a chance to compete for the Big 12 championship. I'm not just being Homer guy. That's legit. And looky here. Look who's playing in Arlington. All right. K-State and Arlington. I see you, Snake. Zach, I'm going to get to your comment in just a moment because I truly feel for you. Snake, though, I do see that. And on the heels of this, as I am celebrating K-State being the Big 12 championship game. And by the way, TCU, more than taking care of business, dropping a 60 burger on the best defense in the Big 12 in Iowa State to go to the Big 12 championship game. UCF headed to the AAC championship game as well against Tulane, who now may be without their head coach, or at least is dealing with that distraction because the coaching carousel is in full swing. Willie Fritz maybe on his way to Georgia Tech. There is a lot happening right now. And obviously, if you are here, you saw the tease to the video. You saw the way that this was marketed. It is about Luke Fickell, who has now officially taken the Wisconsin job. This all unfolded very quickly within the last 20 hours when we first got the Pete Thamel tweet that said Wisconsin was zeroing in on him being the guy. Now it's official. Wisconsin has announced it. Everything is official. Seemed like Jim Leonhard was the guy for sure that was going to get that job. There have been some reports coming out that he was going to be the guy at Wisconsin. The interim, of course, who was a native son there, but instead Wisconsin decided to knock on the door of Luke Fickell, and he answered. He takes a Big Ten job. I think a sneaky good Big Ten job. I think one that is far better than Nebraska, and that's reflected by the fact that we never really seriously heard his name brought up with the Husker job, and that it sounds like he may be making $3 million less per year than what Nebraska had to overpay to get Matt Rule. So I don't know. Wildly fascinating stuff. You guys know that's how the coaching carousel operates, but we have to look at this from a more global standpoint. We'll talk about Cincinnati, and I think some of the candidates that are being mentioned for Cincinnati are very fascinating. But for the Big 12 sake, this is pretty earth-shattering news. Certainly not. Again, I feel for Cincinnati fans. It is not what you want to have heading into a new era, the new Big 12. The timing is not good for Cincinnati on that front. However, they have had an outstanding history of making great hires, which is what my message would be to Cincinnati fans here. But for the Big 12, it is a loss. And I've talked over and over again about all the coaching talent here, people that love Dave Aranda, Matt Campbell, Chris Kleiman now, Lance Leipold, just coaching talent all across. Sonny Dykes, coaching talent all across the board here in this conference that has been coveted by a lot of other people. Luke Fickell was a big part of that. And now he has taken a job when it seemed like last year, I'm sure Cincinnati fans felt like they dodged some pretty major bullets with Notre Dame coming open. For one, Michigan State was open within the last couple of years. Luke Fickell didn't take that. There have been some of these jobs that did not wind up burning Cincy in terms of losing Fickell, but now this one all of a sudden does. And just sneaky, very sneaky by Wisconsin. Sneaky, kind of leaking out there that, hey, this is probably going to be Jim Leonhard's deal. And then all of a sudden, there goes Luke Fickell as soon as Cincy season ends. And so we'll start with my man Zach here, resident Cincinnati fan, and we love him. Zach, I feel for you. Zach says, here's to the end of the absolute worst weekend in the University of Cincinnati football history. It's really been 3 straight days of heartbreak. break. Zach, I feel for you, man, and thank you for being here. Thank you for still donating and supporting the channel. If you need this chat to be therapy, you do whatever you got to do, man, because that is tough. Losing obviously to Tulane, losing I think that was that the nation's second longest home winning streak behind Clemson. I think Clemson had the other one, and they both went down this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that happened. So you're not going to the conference championship game. You lose that game, then you lose your head coach. That is not a fun way to spend. Not a fun way to spend your week. Not a fun way to spend your week at all if you're a Cincinnati fan. So, Zach, I will tell you that you've enjoyed an incredible run of success. You had a season like a dream season last year. This program is not going anywhere. I don't need to tell you the list of hires that Cincinnati has made over the last 15 years. Let me take it back to that. Luke Fickell, Tommy Tuberville, who I know people will scoff at that, but he won 9 games in 2 of his 4 seasons. Fickell, Tommy Tuberville, Butch Jones, Brian Kelly, Mark D'Antonio. And again, I know you could scoff at Butch Jones, but he was great at Cincinnati, and he got the Tennessee job. I mean, those guys took the Michigan State, Notre Dame, Tennessee, and Wisconsin jobs. So anyway, proven track record of hiring successful coaches at Cincinnati. We're going to talk a lot about that throughout the show here today. Also, what else happened in the Big 12? Well, we've got a Big 12 title game that is set. We've got College Game Day coming to the Big 12 championship game after Paul Feinbaum himself said that nobody was going to watch it. ESPN decided, well, actually, that's the best matchup of the weekend. So we're going to go there. We're going to plant our flag there. And they'll be taking in K-State and TCU, who both took care of business, both in pretty dominant fashion. TCU, obviously, more so than K-State. But love to see that. And I am stoked, absolutely stoked for this matchup. And it does sound like with all the chaos that happened throughout college football that there is a legitimate chance TCU can make it in even with a loss in the Big 12 championship game. We have Texas. Texas. I'll send you guys a postcard from Arlington. Should be a fun trip. Texas angling for the Sugar Bowl on Twitter, trying to get in on K-State over that, which I don't believe is going to happen. It's been pretty fun to watch Texas flounder, but they did look pretty good against Baylor in dispatching the Bears and picking up win number 8 on the season. So congratulations. Pretty hollow 8-4 for Texas this year, but congrats. And you can wave Bijan Robinson goodbye as he scampers on to the NFL. Life will be good. And how about Oklahoma? Oklahoma, boy, not only losing to fall to 6-6, and shout out to Texas Tech, man. Ballsy win for Texas Tech. Joey McGuire seems to be all about that. And they finish outright 4th place in the Big 12 after being picked 9th. So let me not shade this all in like, oh, Oklahoma blowing a game, because that's not what happened. But, you know, we gotta take inventory here of Oklahoma being 6-6 and getting absolutely Vince Carter at the Olympics dunked on by Stuart Mandel on Twitter, who just delivered the kill shot of all kill shots to Oklahoma. Remember, he picked Oklahoma to finish 7-5 and got absolutely drilled by Oklahoma Twitter. And so he tweeted out, "You're right. I was crazy to pick Oklahoma 7-5 because they finished 6-6. That is, you know, we have some feelings about Stuart Mandel around here. I know a lot of you do, but that is a hell of a tweet. That is a hell of a tweet. Tip of the caps, good sir. Respect. So all that's on the menu. We can talk about the other Big 12 games as well. Shout out to West Virginia. Pulling one out at Oklahoma State to end the year. Nice little story for Garrett Green to pick up that win. But whatever you guys want to talk about, it's on the table. You guys know if you've been here, how you do it. Click the $ below the chat box where it says say something. We've already got a bunch of donations lining up, but that is how you get in on the show. Too much happening in the chat with almost 200 people in already now for me to read very much of it. But if you want to make sure that your voice is heard and you get your question or comment in on the show, you click the $ below the chat box where it says say something. Not only do you get on the show, make your voice heard, direct the content here, but it also supports the work I'm doing and bringing you Big 12 content on a week in, week out basis. And I could not do it without you. So sincerely appreciate all the support from you guys and appreciate it as always. So let's get going. Oh, like the video. I'd appreciate that. Totally free. Just one click. Like the video. That helps me out as well. Helps me with the YouTube algorithm. And that is another thing you can do to help this Big 12 community continue. So, Zach, we start with condolences, man. We start with condolences for you there. I'm also loving the vibes that I'm getting in the chat of people talking about Tim Brando. I mean, that Tim Brando broadcast, I tried to tell everybody it is awful if that was your first time watching it, because it was a a game on Fox between K-State and Kansas there at the end of the night with Tim Brando. I tried to warn you. I tried to warn you how bad that is. Spencer Tillman, not quite as bad. I feel like he gets drugged down a little bit by Brando, but it is just not a high quality broadcast. Anyway, G. David Davis. G. David Davis says, all glory to the Hypnotoad. Well, 62 points. That's a lot of glory, my friend. It's a lot of glory to the Hypnotoad. Helped out by a couple of pick sixes thrown by Hunter Deckers, who I just don't know is the answer for Iowa State at quarterback long term, and a punt snap. That was like a snap that went over the dude's head and actually hit an official, but still set up a short field. So some things helping out TCU there to make that number a little bit inflated, but still, I mean, you're putting over 40 points offensively on what was a team that had not given up more than 31 all year in Iowa State, a team that had been rock solid best defense in the Big 12. So TCU seems to be rounding into form. And that really, G. David Davis, is the exciting part about the Big 12 championship game. It feels like both K-State and TCU are playing their best football. Remember the first time K-State played TCU, Will Howard came in with the injury to Adrian Martinez. That was really his first go. Nobody knew anything about him. Now he looks like the second best quarterback in the league. So a lot has changed. It will be very interesting in Arlington coming up on Saturday. Snake. We already touched on UCF in the AAC championship game. Let's see. McMuffin. What's up, McMuffin? McMuffin says Luke Prickle. Okay. This bear will be back in K-State. Well, thank you, McMuffin. Thank you for your support, both here to the channel and to the Cats this weekend. I've heard that a lot from Baylor fans. Huh? You guys don't seem to like the Frogs very much. So it seems like Baylor fans are very heartily supporting K-State this weekend in Arlington. Thank you for that. We'll try and get a Big 12 championship following the footsteps of the good old Bears last year in Arlington. Browns and Beers. What's up, Browns and Beers? Oh boy. All right. Well, Browns and Beers says Cincinnati Tears are great no matter the sport. Happy to not have to play Fickell. Great win for West Virginia football over a surprisingly unmotivated Gundy team. 31-28 TCU for my title game prediction. Not a bad prediction. That's right, basically on where the Vegas lines have been early. I know on FanDuel it opened up at 2.5 in favor of TCU. I saw earlier this week. I did have someone tell me in some places it had already been bet down to 1.5. So it seems like a lot of people, the public, probably liking K-State there in that scenario. I can understand how that would be a popular pick if you're looking to mix things up on Championship Saturday. But as far as I can understand from a West Virginia standpoint, looking at it and being like, hey, it's kind of nice if Cincinnati is going to take a step or two down here with Fickell leaving. That actually helps us out as we try to figure out our future and what's going on there, which it seems like it's still in question as to what is going to happen to Neil Brown, what his fate will be, but did finish the year on a high note. And I was only peeking in on I was at a Buffalo Wild Wings, like trying to watch games on Saturday, and I was like peeking in to Oklahoma State, West Virginia a little bit. So I didn't get to watch it real closely or see a ton of it. But I watched enough to know, it just looked very sloppy. And I can imagine a rather unmotivated Mike Gundy team there in that final game of the year. No Spencer Sanders, obviously a lot of things really working against them there. But hey, nice little positive at the end of the year with Garrett Green. I know West Virginia fans are not happy or not satisfied at all. But I can understand being in that geographic, closer certainly to Cincinnati in that geographic region and being kind of like, well, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's not the worst thing in the world if Cincinnati's going to have to rebuild a little bit here. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm seeing UCF fans in the chat here talking to Cincinnati, man. All the winning you guys have been doing lately in the AAC seems to have not made you a lot of friends up in that area. Oh, G. David Davis chiming in again. All glory to the Hypnotoad. Yes, G. David Davis. Appreciate that. Jeff, what's up, Jeff? All right, so Jeff, a Texas Tech fan here. Tech deserves a lot of credit, man. It says pick 9th, finish 4th. The Joey McGuire era is going to be a game changer for Tech. Wreck 'em. There are plenty of reasons to believe that is the case. Texas Tech beats Oklahoma and I feel like Texas Tech has won a handful of these games this year. The Texas game comes to mind too. Just like gritty, gutsy. Houston at the beginning of the year too, right? Like toughness wins that take a lot of toughness and mental fortitude to win. And that is just frankly not something that I had expected from the Texas Tech football program. That's the wrong way to put it. It is not something I'm used to seeing from the Texas Tech football program. I expected Joey McGuire would make things tougher, and he certainly has, but he's even surpassed my expectations here. But, multiple comebacks there, falling way behind early in the game and continuing to fight through a lot of adversity, converting a crucial fourth down on the drive that eventually gets you the game time field goal. Just so much going on there for Texas Tech to get that win. And, this may be a small thing. This may seem like fairly insignificant, but I even think to watching Donovan Smith continue to contribute for Texas Tech, a guy who's kind of been like passed over in the quarterback carousel that the Texas Tech has gone with this year. Baron Morton at one point was the guy who's the future and was playing better at the time, so he got in. Then Tyler Shuck, who comes back from injury and seemed all but like lost and forgotten. All of a sudden, he's the guy now, but they still find ways to use Donovan Smith. He seems to give a ton of effort, and to me, that just signals how bought in everybody seems to be around the Tech football program right now. And look, to go from pick ninth, finishing fourth, first winning conference record since 2009. Shout out to my guys, the Gambling Gauchos. They pointed out if Texas Tech had won in Manhattan earlier this year, that would have been enough to get them in the Big 12 championship game. So really, it came down to kind of one game. That was a close game. Now, it was K-State with Adrian Martinez, which was not quite as potent of an offense. But Texas Tech was right there. That was a game. I remember talking to you guys about it. I thought K-State was losing. Like midway through the third quarter, I thought that was going to be a loss for K-State. I was pretty upset. So that's how close it was for Texas Tech to be playing in Arlington right now. And for the first time in Texas Tech history, by the way, Red Raiders beat Oklahoma and Texas in the same season. So I know how much you guys love that. I know how thrilled that has to make people in Lubbock. And frankly, you deserve it, man. You deserve it. So enjoy that. Don't apologize for it being a 6-6 Oklahoma team or anything like that, man. You take that win, you run with it, you absolutely enjoy it. Abso-freaking-lutely enjoy it. So congrats to Texas Tech. Meanwhile, for Oklahoma in this game, down pretty bad right now, finishing the year at 6-6. I was very happy to see that. This is now clear step below even what the worst of the Bob Stoops era, once he got it up and running, was. They had the 8-5 Trevor Knight season. This is now worse, man. 6-6, losing a game where you had a big lead. Again, like a shootout kind of game where the Brent Venables defense is not really showing itself. And that to me seems to be one of the big takeaways and storylines from Oklahoma football this year. Just not creating any sort of improved defense from Brent Venables when that is supposed to be what he does. Brent Venables, Ted Roof, whoever we're going to bring in on giving the credit or lack thereof for the Oklahoma defense just was not there. And then it seemed obvious to me the offense was going to take a step back, but it was going to be, all right, there's going to be enough defense there to actually make up for it. And the answer was a resounding no, as Oklahoma goes 6-6. And I put this together. I got to give a little shout out to my guy, Derek Young, who does the 3 Mile podcast with me. He covers K-State for K-State Online. But he brought this up. Think about this for Oklahoma fans, right? As loud, boisterous, obnoxious, chest beating, all that was going on in summer 2021. When we find out Oklahoma is going to the SEC, man, we're so tired of subsidizing you guys. SEC football, here we come. Now let's look at the year Oklahoma has had, okay? So Oklahoma is 6-6. They lost 6 conference games in one season. Lincoln Riley lost 7 his entire tenure at Oklahoma. They almost lost as many conference games this year as Lincoln Riley lost his entire tenure at Oklahoma. So they're 6-6. They got dunked on by Stuart Mandel yesterday when he said, "You were right. I was dumb to pick Oklahoma to go 7-5. Lincoln Riley is 1 win away from the college football playoff in his first year at USC. Caleb Williams, former Oklahoma quarterback, is your Heisman frontrunner now, heading into Championship Saturday. Spencer Rattler, I don't know if you noticed, former Oklahoma quarterback, he just beat back-to-back top 10 teams and is doing it for maybe the hottest head coach in America right now in Shane Beamer, who, oh, by the way, was Oklahoma's assistant head coach under Lincoln Riley and did get like a cursory mention or two during that coaching search last year, but seemingly brushed off rather easily by Oklahoma fans. Now, ask Sooner fans what they would rather have, Shane Beamer or Brent Venables. Plus, just sprinkle on top there Josh Heupel, who was once run out of town in Norman and obviously won a national championship as a QB there. He's 10-2, led the Tennessee resurgence, even if it did end with a bit of a thud at the end of the year. Still had a tremendous, tremendous year. So that's Oklahoma. going 6-6, getting dunked on by Stuart Mandel, watching Lincoln Riley potentially go to the playoff with Caleb Williams winning the Heisman. Shane Beamer, a guy who was there, just crush it with your former quarterback, and Spencer Rattler, who again you hated and ran out of town. Not good times. Not good times. Down bad to the folks in Norman. And I'm sure there's not much sympathy to go around from most of the people here in this chat. So, oh boy, when it comes to evaluating the future there, I mean, I had made that point. Like if Brent Venables can win Bedlam and finish out the year with a couple of wins, tough road win at Texas Tech, difficult place to play, difficult team to play this year, maybe you can start convincing me like, hey, all right, there is some real momentum heading into the offseason here. Let's see what happens in the portal. Let's see what happens in recruiting. I don't think this is the note that you wanted to leave on at the end of the year with a lot of negative things going on around that program, a lot of negative momentum. So we'll see. I mean, we are in, I will make this point, the Oklahoma fans, I suppose, we are in such an instant gratification society that a lot of times we just write people off in a tweet, 280 characters at a time. We write somebody off and those tweets can circle back around. They can come back around and really bite you. So maybe Brent Venables is going to be the guy long term. Maybe he will get it figured out. But right now, the early returns, the early signs are not looking good at all. And no matter what has happened, Oklahoma fans and the program in general, it's tasted its own blood, right? They're not used to doing much of that. They're not used to feeling mortal. And they are very much mortal right now. So Texas Tech, 2 last second wins over Texas and Oklahoma. And sincerely from the bottom of my heart, Texas Tech, thank you for the one over Texas in particular. Very important in my world these days that you guys got that win. So thank you wholeheartedly. There we go. That's what I got for you. Cacti Nation. Thank you, Cacti Mafia. Cougar Tracks. What's up, Cougar Tracks? Cougar Tracks says, congratulations to K-State, and my Cougars even won a great football weekend. Indeed, Cougar Tracks. Indeed. Winning at Stanford. BYU gets the win, so they finished 7-5. UCF, I mentioned that they're going to be in the AAC title game. That is going to be a tough game. Tulane is a 3-point favorite there, but UCF has a chance to be in their third New Year's Six Bowl in the last 6 years. So Houston, obviously, not going to make the AAC title game there, but they were in it down to the final week of the regular season, which is not what I think a lot of people figured would happen, judging by the way Houston's season was going for a minute there. So, some good things there out of the incomers to the Big 12. I think I just made up a word there, the incomers, but I digress. Robert says, thanks for the vibes. Tech over OU. Hooray. Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. I really wish that game was not at the same time, up against K-State, Kansas, because I would have loved to have watched that on a more in-depth basis. I did what I could, judging by what was on YouTube today and trying to get caught up on some of that stuff, but not able to actually sit down and watch the whole game. But it seemed like a wild game. And I did watch a cut up that was just the last couple of drives of regulation and then all of overtime that I did find on YouTube. So I was able to see the end of the game, which was pretty thrilling. And by the way, one side note here, what is Brent Venables, and I guess really this would not be quite as much a question for him, maybe more so for Jeff Levy. What are they doing getting Dylan Gabriel just absolutely killed again on a trick play where he's trying to haul a pass and the guy throwing it, what do you know, not a quarterback, leads him straight into just a bulldozer and he gets freight trained on the sideline. It's already happened once this year, Oklahoma. You're trying to get him killed again. What are you doing? What are you doing? I felt for Dylan Gabriel after that, man. I mean, that was one of those hits, you could feel it. You could feel it just watching it. So, man, I hope he is okay. Hope he is okay. Calico Willie. What's up, Calico Willie? Thanks for being here. Calico Willie says, been waiting 5 weeks to get another shot at TCU. EMA versus Hypnotoad Part 2. Or should we call it Part Deuce? I like that. Obviously, Deuce Vaughn, but K-State's best player on defense, arguably one of them anyway. Daniel Green, his nickname is Deuce. He also wears number 22. So K-State's all about the Deuce life. He laid a hell of a hit on Jalen Daniels in the end zone on Saturday, if you were watching that game. But yes, I have been waiting for this as well. I think the interesting part here to me, as I kind of alluded to earlier, is that while I do very much feel K-State is playing better football than they were going into that TCU game, even as well as Will Howard played in the first half. Again, he got knocked out for a couple of drives there that were an interception and a turnover on downs when K-State went to a completely ill-prepared third-string quarterback in that game, and that winds up being the difference in the game. I am excited for K-State to get another shot. However, it's hard to really make a case that TCU is not playing better football right now, too, based on the fact that they just threw up a 60 burger on the best defense in the Big 12. 2 pick sixes in there. I understand that. But they did a great job against the best defense in the Big 12. 2 weeks ago, they won at Texas with totally motivated Texas, all the lights on, college game day there, the whole country watching. They just stymied them in Austin. And in between there, pulled off the heroics in Waco, which is much more of like a grind it out, win your clunker type of a situation, to quote the Solid Verbal. I get that. But I mean, TCU is playing some really good football, and I can't take anything away from them. Because to be honest with you, Calico, when we sat here 5 weeks ago and I was sitting there thinking and saying, like, give me another shot at them, I feel like we can get that and that we might be the better team here, I thought for sure TCU would have at least one loss by the time that matchup was happening in Arlington. And they have just continued to win and continued to prove me wrong in that respect. So there is, speaking of, a lot of respect for me toward TCU and the job that they have done now. And to have taken it to the point where, I mean, now this is Jerry Palm, so I know he's not like the college football expert, but I was looking through some bowl predictions, and he said, look, it looks like Georgia, Michigan, and TCU are all going to be in, even if they lose. And I've seen that notion out there from some people on college football Twitter, like more of a national college football crowd. Like, people really seem to think TCU is now all of a sudden in a position to where they could afford actually a loss in the Big 12 championship game. I still wouldn't trust that if I were TCU. I would want to go ahead and win that game just to make sure. But the other part of it is, like, looking around, do I think TCU is going to get blasted? Maybe Georgia. I do feel like Georgia would be the one exception to this if it turns into a 1-4 matchup and you do have to play Georgia. I feel like there's an element to Georgia kind of sleepwalking a little bit throughout some of the season. If it's not somebody that really gets their attention, the playoff is going to get their full undivided attention, even if they think the Big 12 sucks and whatever. So maybe that's the one scenario, but man, I don't know. Like Michigan, USC, some of the other teams that are really in the mix here, I give me TCU to take their shot against those squads. I do not feel like it's going to be the Oklahoma LSU whitewashing, for instance, of 2020. Like, I don't think we're in for something like that. So I'm here for it. I'm here for watching what TCU would bring to the playoff. Again, hopefully after stumbling in a close loss to K-State in the Big 12 championship game. That's, we could just all break bread over that, Frogs. Then you guys can go on and win the national championship. It'd be great. You don't need the Big 12 championship along the way. All right. Cameron. What's up, Cameron? Cameron, Kansas fan. He says, I think we'll get your Cats next year. KU just isn't quite there yet. Rock chalk. Well, you certainly have picked up the platform talking points from Kansas fans and Kansas Twitter that I have seen after that game. Look, Kansas deserves a lot of credit. They've come a long ways, and the accomplishment of getting bowl eligible in 6-6 should not be diminished. And they're a hard team to kill. It was the same thing that I've seen from them over and over this year when I've watched them. Even though they may make some mistakes and fall behind, they are just going to fight you like hell, and they are not going away. I mean, it was 28-3 in Waco, and all of a sudden there at the end of the game, they've got a chance down one possession with the ball in the fourth quarter. Oklahoma probably should have won that game by like 28, and Kansas kept fighting, kept finding ways to stay in it, and it was a close game down to the wire. They do that. Leipold is too good of a coach to really let them quit or anything like that. But you're right, they don't quite have the horses, and there will be a lot returning, assuming that there's not a major exodus, which I would not foresee happening for Kansas. They're going to return. I think I saw 10 starters on offense. So in particular, the offense, I would imagine, is still going to be really good. Now they've got a long ways to go on defense, and special teams is really, it's one of the ways K-State just killed Kansas throughout the game with the return game, with Ty Zentner punting the muffed punt, obviously, which was huge early to set up K-State's first score. That's a big part of the game too. But I would say, I took a peek at KU's recruiting class right now. Once again, the portal matters arguably more, or at least in terms of the immediacy for next year, more than what the recruiting class looks like from a high school standpoint, but they're like 72nd in the country. It's not blowing you away. So I would just caution Kansas fans a little bit. I know that's kind of the cope here at the end of the day. Say, we're going to get it next year for sure. The game's in Lawrence. K-State's not playing with a one-year rental at quarterback. Will Howard looks like the real freaking deal at quarterback. He's back next year. So I would not just write that off as a K-State loss next year already, but don't part of my message to Kansas fans would just be like, don't worry about that. I had KU buddies of mine texting me. They're like, look, I mean, it sucks, but Lance is going to be the guy that ends the streak. And the K-State's beaten Kansas 14 times in a row. Yes, that's right. 14 times in a row. What were you doing in November of 2008? That was the last time K-State beat Kansas in football, and Ron Prince was K-State's head coach at that point in time. But yes, I think it is likely. I would tell you, I think it is likely that Lance Leipold is going to end the streak. I think there are going to be some really good matchups between Kleiman and Leipold coming down the pipe. But Chris Kleiman's hitting his stride too. Like, let's not forget that. That's the thing here. Kansas, you guys have a great coach. I think that's pretty well established at this point in time. And anybody who would try to rebuke that or go against that is just lying to themselves. Lance Leipold is a great coach. So is Chris Kleiman. And Chris Kleiman's put 4 years into this to get it up and running to where it's at right now. He's not just going to lay over and die in Lawrence next year. And this is a program that's not going to be intimidated by going to play in Lawrence. So I'm getting way too far down that road. But, maybe I've been slightly annoyed at that after a 20-point loss. Kansas fans coming out and being like, we've got this next year, of course. We'll see. We'll see. You guys thought a lot of things when you were 5-0. It didn't come to fruition. Okay, so I'm just saying I may not trust you fully with that opinion yet. But we'll see. Cameron, I know, Cameron, you're not – I'm projecting a little bit to some of my frustrations from people out there that I had a lot of bookmark tweets from on KU Twitter. But a little analysis there on KU K-State. Darius, what's up, Darius? I appreciate the support. I appreciate the donation. Darius says, if Texas Tech beats K-State, we're in the title game. Pick 9th, finish 4th, first winning league record since 2009. Sorry, bro, but go Frogs. Big 12 needs cred. Hey, Darius, again, they can lose and still get into the playoff. And then once they're in the playoff, they can still go beat Georgia. They can do whatever it is that they want. All right. But no, look, I understand. I will not begrudge you. For rooting for TCU because I get it. I mean, look, is there a teeny tiny part of me that's torn? Like, yeah, probably a teeny tiny part of me because I've been fighting for TCU this whole year. You guys have heard it on this channel. It's been ridiculous, the amount of shade that they've been thrown just casually without people even paying attention, particularly by Paul Feinbaum, who's the ringleader of that stupidity. He's the ringleader of it because he'll just casually throw out there, no one's going to watch, nobody cares, but yet we see the numbers every week. People are watching TCU in droves. Now they're starting to get respect from a lot of people to the point that they could even lose. They're also just avoiding dumb losses. I'm sure Paul Feinbaum would have told you definitively that LSU is a much better team than TCU. Of course, they're LSU. They've got the Tigers. Brian Kelly's the coach. Joe Burrow played there. What happened to LSU this weekend? They got smacked by Texas freaking A&M. Like the meme of all memes for this college football season. Texas A&M, they had literally 12 men in the stands for their game against UMass last week, where they were struggling, by the way, with UMass to get by with a win. They just beat LSU. So, tone it down. It is so – anyway, the TCU hate has been ridiculous, and I very much would like to see them vindicated. I'm just hopeful that it happens as a one-loss team in the playoff. How about this? How about this for some spin, okay? Let me preach this spin to you. TCU proves that the Big 12 is strong enough to get in even – with somebody losing in the conference championship game, and then they can still go win in the playoff and earn the respect there. That's a good storyline. That's a great storyline. Either way, Frogs have the first unbeaten Big 12 regular season since 2009. So congratulations to TCU for that. And again, Darius, you rattled off all the stats that I had earlier. See, that's how I know Tech fans. You guys know I do my homework. I had all those notes. I already rattled them off here on the chat. I had all of that for Texas Tech. Already. So congratulations, Darius. I'm sure you guys had a great time at Jones AT&T Stadium for that one. Provo Cougar fan. What's up, Provo Cougar fan? Provo Cougar fan says, Cougar stumbled to 7-5, beating Stanford. Looks like the New Mexico Bowl. Congratulations, Cats. Another year and no OU or UT in the Big 12 championship game. Horns down. Indeed. I tell you, a big part of my Saturday that was very, very enjoyable was watching the Texas official football Twitter account going back and forth with the Kansas official Twitter account about how do we root for you and blah, blah, blah. The big Texas accounts turning into Kansas fans, retweet this as many times. And if Kansas wins, I'll donate to charity, all these different gimmicks going on. And then not much more I love than shutting up Kansas and Texas on the same Saturday at the same time. So that was pretty great for me. I'm not going to lie. It was pretty awesome. I enjoyed it immensely. But yes, you make a great point. 4 teams since Texas and Oklahoma announced they were leaving for the SEC. 4 teams will now have participated in the Big 12 championship game. Exactly 0 of them being Oklahoma and Texas. Not a single one. Oklahoma and Texas not in there. And last year, almost 5 million people watched the thing. This year, College Game Day chooses to be there on the final Saturday of the college football season, pre-bowl, pre-college football playoff season. All of that happening without the help of Texas and Oklahoma. Oklahoma goes 6-6. Texas goes 8-4. We don't need any help. We got this. The rest of the league is going to be just fine. And we're continuing to further that narrative these last 2 years with how everything is playing out. So, yes, you make a great point, Provo Cougar fan. And, hey, I hope you guys have a fun bowl season. I've seen BYU matched up, actually, with Kansas in some bowl projections. But I think what everybody's hoping for here, and honestly, college football would just be the better for this, is Kansas playing Missouri in the Liberty Bowl. That's been thrown out there because you have a Big 12 and SEC tie in there. That to me is like what bowl games should be. We should actively seek out those matchups and put them together because bowls have become so stale and watered down and people don't really care. That's exactly what we want to see. Give me Texas and Texas A&M in a bowl game. I mean, help if A&M could win enough games to be bowl eligible, but if we could get to that point, if we can get Texas A&M's cute little program to the point where they can, make a bowl game, then we could throw Texas and Texas A&M in a bowl game. We could get Kansas and Missouri there. That's what this should be. That would be amazing for college football. I mean, as somebody who grew up in Kansas City, Big 12 country, watching the Kansas-Missouri games, yes, even on the football field, it was great. I enjoyed those a lot. There's so much vitriol, such a great rivalry there between those two. I would love to see that. But I hope BYU gets an exciting matchup as well. I hope the Cougars get to 8-5 to close things out. Zach checking in again. Zach says, I've maintained that my only real expectation for Cincinnati's first year in the Big 12 was to be bowl eligible. Am I nuts for thinking that's still reachable? Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. No, I mean, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. I think I'll hold up Kansas as Exhibit A there. Now I don't know, Zach, how much you watched Kansas throughout the year, but like that, I mean, that's a pretty salty team. And they finished 6-6 this year in the Big 12, dealing with some injuries and had to play Jason Bean instead of Jalen Daniels at quarterback. But frankly, I'm not sure that makes the difference in maybe one game. I would say at most Kansas lost one game because of that. I still think it's so much more about the scheme than the individual talent of either one of those quarterbacks. But Daniels does make less backbreaking mistakes than Bean. Anyway, that is the point I would make. Like Kansas was pretty good this year, and they finished 6-6. Texas Tech was pretty salty this year, and they finished 7-5. So it's not going to be a cakewalk. It won't be easy. But I talked about championship DNA all over Baylor's program. I mean, there's championship DNA all over Cincinnati's program with the run that they've had here under Fickell and the run that they've had for the last couple of decades under all these different really high-profile coaches. So no, I don't think you're nuts at all. And I think I really respect you, Zach, in that regard because you have what to me seem like pretty realistic expectations. And that's not a slight to any of these programs, but I do think there will be sort of an adjustment period. We've just seen it time and time again. How many times have we made fun on this channel of Nebraska, Colorado, Texas A&M, Missouri for how they're struggling in other leagues, and they've even been there for a while? It's just these things haven't gone well super often for teams that are coming in, and in particular, it can be rough just getting used to it. But that's, I think, the point. You have to take it on, get used to it, and then it'll become more second nature that you're used to playing those games week in and week out. But yeah, I think, hey, can we go 6-6 to 8-4 our first year in the Big 12? I think that would be a great mark to shoot for without having any real in-depth knowledge, just being honest with you about Cincinnati's roster. But I know what that program is. So that is what I would say to you, Zach. No, I think you're in a perfectly fine spot. My expectation would be that Cincinnati at least goes 6-6. I would certainly think that in their first year in the league. Very intrigued to see who you guys hire, though. Let's, you know what? I know I'll get to the rest of the donations here in just a second. Let me jump to this on the Cincinnati front because I have been incredibly intrigued by some of the names that are popping up here. So I asked Cincinnati fans on Twitter this. Who would they prefer? And I was seeing Tom Herman is a name that I see a lot. Obviously, former Texas head coach, but had great success at Houston in the AAC. I think he's a perfectly fine candidate. I have been waiting for him to take another job, and I'm a little surprised that he hasn't by this point already. Brian Hartline, the passing game coordinator and wide receivers coach at Ohio State. There's not anybody really doing that better, passing the football and creating stud wide receivers in the game right now than Ohio State. Obviously has ties to the area. Alex Golish, is it Golish, the Tennessee offensive coordinator. I've seen his name mentioned. Deion Sanders, I've even seen thrown out by quite a few Cincinnati fans, which that one to this point, his name is becoming so hot and so intriguing on the coaching market that I'm up for anybody wanting to explore that. I saw, Colorado supposedly offering the job to him. I don't know if I were Deion, if I would take that job, but for Colorado, that makes a lot of sense. You need a jump start. You need relevancy. You need talent. That would be a way to do that instantly by hiring Deion Sanders. High risk, high reward, but you would be reaping a lot of things pretty instantly by doing that. So I would support it. From the pure entertainment standpoint, as a third party, having Deion in the conference at Cincinnati would be incredible. But I don't know. It doesn't feel like that's going to be the hire to me, but we'll see. I don't really know. So Cincinnati fans, hit me up if I'm missing any other big names there or where you guys think this might go. But I would not fret too much yet. Cincinnati at one point lost. God, who was it? Who was Brian? I'm gonna have to look this up. Just remember Brian Kelly was the interim, and then all of a sudden, obviously, took off and took the program to new heights after he filled in for D'Antonio. That's right. So D'Antonio, he's on D'Antonio's staff. He's the interim. He wins the International Bowl, and then he goes 10-3, 11-3, 12-0 before taking the Notre Dame job. So when this has happened before, even if it looked bleak, even if it wasn't a sexy name at the time, things have worked out pretty well for Cincinnati. Matthew, what's up, Matthew? Matthew says, best year in forever. Texas Tech on track to be a Big 12 power. Well, it is definitely the best year in forever for Texas Tech since 2009, certainly. Accomplished a lot of great things that year. Michael Crabtree and company, that sort of era for Texas Tech. The Big 12 power thing, here's kind of just what I'm feeling about the Big 12 right now. I'm not sure that I'm ready to anoint anybody a Big 12 power or for sure a Big 12 power because we're seeing just so much. I think the way the league has played out the last 2 years is just a preview for what we're going to get moving forward. I just said it. 4 different teams have played in the Big 12 championship now the last 2 years. Different teams rise up when they kind of culminate, like K-State is at the culmination of like a 2 to 3 year build here where they've hit that point where guys in the right spots have been in the program, developed, and you've gone through that cycle. And so you have a great team and you make the conference championship game. Last year, Baylor. This year, Baylor 6-6. Oklahoma State 7-5 this year after flirting with the college football playoff last year. I feel like the competition is too stiff in this league. There are too many really damn good coaches in this league to think that anybody is going to really run away with it and be a power, quote unquote. Now, TCU, I'm sure TCU fans would look at me and be like, look, dude, we just got this new coach who took Gary Patterson's lifeless program to an unbeaten regular season. And that is very much true. We'll have to see how TCU responds next year because they've taken it to another level from what Baylor and Oklahoma State did last year. That is absolutely 100% true. But I still tend to think it's not going to be a dominant force year in and year out. TCU has a lot of advantages that if Sonny Dykes really is that guy, he can utilize with the recruiting territory there year in and year out. But I just feel so strongly about the coaching talent that we have across the league that it is just going to be brutal every year. And I think it will just ebb and flow based on who's at the right place in their sort of development cycle. Somebody has to lose games. We can look at this and say, hey, Texas Tech. And I believe in Joey McGuire. I think he's doing a lot of great things. But I also believe in Chris Kleiman. He's doing a lot of great things. Lance Leipold is doing some incredible things. Sonny Dykes is doing some incredible things. We've seen Dave Aranda do it. Mike Gundy's been doing it for decades. There's just too much there. Like somebody has to lose football games. So I think we're just going to see a lot of that. That to me is how this league is really mapping out at this point, and I would anticipate that that's how it's going to be moving forward. I think a lot of people had that thought, and that was going to be a big part of the marketability of the Big 12. Unpredictable, really fun, lots of good teams, which creates unpredictability on a week-in, week-out basis. But that also, reality has to set in then at some point for some of the fan bases and be like, hey, that means we're not always going to be a dominant force every single year in this new conference. So I'll be very interested to watch how all that develops. But anyway, didn't mean to make a huge point out out of your celebration there, Matthew, because you guys should be celebrating, and it's clear your program is in much better hands than it was before with Matt Wells. There's just so much more juice with the Texas Tech program. That's another way I think to put it. There's so much more juice to the Texas Tech program right now. Daniel, what's up, Daniel? Daniel says, much better game from the Hawks this year, but I'm still glad that we won. Next year will be interesting and hopefully still in prime time. Go Cats, beat the Frogs. Yeah, I mean, look, let me say this too. And Daniel, I really appreciate the support. Thank you. Thank you for being there and for cheering on the Cats. I'll say this too about Kansas, a point that is deserving to make. Like, Daniel, you're sitting here feeling the satisfaction of winning that game. That felt a hell of a lot more satisfying than, I mean, I would say all but one of the previous 13 in a row that K-State had won over Kansas. I think the game in 2009 was really satisfying to get back on track with Snyder there, winning that first year. 2010 actually could rival this because out of nowhere, it's just a total whitewashing, 59-7. But then after that, it was just like ho-hum, year in, year out. They're not good. They're terrible. And you just clock them every year and move on to the next thing. And it's fun, but it's not really satisfying. You know, it's kind of like eating some junk food, eating some candy, some Mike and Ike's or something. Like, felt much more like eating a burger. Maybe not a steak dinner, but at least like eating a burger for K-State, which is a big step up in terms of your overall satisfaction for winning the game. And that's a credit to Kansas. That's a credit to them being better. That's a credit to them giving their fans something to chirp about for the entire first couple months of the season and getting their rivalry reignited and fired up. So I think, Daniel, it sounds like that you would echo those sentiments as well, that like it was a more fun game, a more fun win, a more fun build-up and day, which is what makes college football great for everybody involved with that rivalry because Kansas has been better this year. So Kansas deserves a lot of credit. Look, here's the thing. I went and watched some of Lance Leipold's press conference after the game. And it's not like I learned anything new about him, but it just struck me again. I was like, I can't hate anything about that guy. I mean, I don't particularly love that he's putting my rival in a much better position as a football program, but I can't hate the guy. He's not a hateable guy. He's like everything that the Kansas hires seemingly have not been for the most part over this trudge through the desert of the worst Power 5 football we've really ever seen. It's not somebody totally arrogant with a big name like Charlie Weiss or Les Miles. It's not just an idiot like Les Miles or Charlie Weiss. It is not just, Jeff Long, even the athletic director who made the Les Miles hire, he had this weird, quirky arrogance to him too. Always felt like Kansas just wanted a big name because, boy, we're Kansas, and that's what we have to do. No, they finally found like just a grinder, very humble, very classy, none of the things that I associate with generally the Kansas fan base. So there's not much I can hate on from him. I think in some ways, like, and I don't, he's got a lot to prove before we ever start really truly going here. But in terms of just the way he operates, there's a little bit of Bill Snyder in him, I think, with that in Lance Leipold. Now, I mean, having said that too, I've heard Kansas fans complain, kind of grumble about some of the in-game decision making. That's going to have to get better because the 4th and 4, when he's down 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter and he doesn't go for it, I mean, around his like 35 or 40 yard line, he doesn't go for it. That would have driven me insane if I were a Kansas fan because the way that second half was going, it just felt like that's going to be it. I mean, you're not getting the ball back down 2 scores again. They didn't. K-State went down, just salted the clock, perfect drive, punched it in, game over. That was a bad decision. You gotta man up in those moments, but I think that can come. I think Chris Kleiman's gotten better at that, becoming more aggressive as opposed to where he was at early in his K-State career when that really frustrated me. So anyway, Daniel, indeed, go Cats, beat the Frogs. Hope you get a chance to go to Arlington like I am planning on doing. I've not bought tickets yet. I'll probably wait until later in the week to see if those prices come down a little bit. They're not outrageous or anything right now, but we'll see. We'll get it figured out. Bob, what's up, Bob? Bob, thank you for the support. Bob has a message for Bearcat fans. He says, Bearcat fans, think of the positive. You're joining the Power 5, Big 12 next year, and it probably would not have happened without Fickell. Rejoice. That is true. I mean, I'm sure there's some gratitude there. Maybe not in this moment, but there perhaps should be some gratitude there for Luke Fickell and helping you get to this point. And look, Cincinnati's program is bigger than just one coach. That has been well established and outlined here on the show. So it's a good point, Bob. I need to work harder on being more grateful for the things that I have in my life. That's a great check-in, Bob. Doing really good work for everybody's mental health there. Hopefully Cincinnati fans have a chance to do that. I know how tough it is in these moments like this. I remember Cincinnati fans, this will actually be pertinent to you. I remember the biggest sports meltdown I've ever had was when Bob Huggins left K-State after 1 year because he totally rejuvenated the basketball program. And I had never seen winning basketball in my conscious adult life. And I was just completely bursting at the seams. I was mad, I was sad, I was whatever emotion you could throw in there. And you know what? Everything worked out okay. They promoted this guy named Frank Martin. They brought in Michael Beasley. They brought in Jacob Pullen. Things worked out okay. Things worked out all right. So I've been there before. I know how tough it is in the moment to try and take a step back and gain some perspective, but I hope that everybody is able to a little bit. Ag List. What's up, Ag List? Or AG List. I always forget. I'm sorry. It says, John, always painful to lose to KSU, but hats off to your Cats. They were the better team. Hope you beat TCU. Next year, Jayhawks rising. Rock Chalk Jayhawk, Allen. Hey, Allen, I appreciate it. I think that's a totally good perspective and take to have on this whole thing. It is clear that Kansas is coming. They're going to be a problem for people under Lance Leipold here in the future. And they're absolutely just almost immediately in the mix. I mean, a year ago this time, we would think it'd be crazy to be having the conversations that we're having now about Kansas, even in the aftermath of the loss on Saturday. So I think you are correct. Kansas program is in very good shape. And the other thing is, with all these coaching moves, we're seeing Luke Fickell surprisingly leave all of a sudden for Wisconsin. That was one of those jobs that Kansas fans were worried about. You dodged the Wisconsin and Nebraska bullets in one offseason, Kansas, and maybe in part because the season did wind up at 6-6 instead of like 8-4, or some of the really lofty expectations that people had out there. Big 12 championship, for instance. If that had happened, Lance Leipold's probably not around Lawrence. That star probably gets too bright. But you kept him, and now we'll get a chance to really build that program. You're probably gonna have to shell out some more money for that offensive coordinator too. I would say that, man, because that guy impresses the hell out of me. He does. I actually heard Tim Brando. I thought made a good point. Tim Brando, good point on the broadcast. I thought I heard him say like that he should have made the next cut for the Broyles Award. Was he not like a semifinalist for the Broyles Award? That guy should be. And I will botch his last name. Was it like Andy Clark? He should be on the list for the Broyles Award, undoubtedly, with the way that he is coached this year. Eric, what's up, Eric? Thank you for the support. Thank you for being here, my friend. Eric says, it's been such a strange season for Oklahoma State. We averaged 44.7 points the first 7 games, but finished scoring 13.4 points. Oh, boy. I know injuries hurt us, but, man, it sucks going 1-4 in the last 5 games. It does, but, again, Eric, I would offer you perspective. Look at the global picture here of Oklahoma State's program. You're in a great position. This is basically as bad as it gets under Mike Gundy, and that's still a 7-5 season. We're talking about Kansas and the struggles that they have had. They would certainly take it. I know you guys lost to Kansas, but quarterback injuries, clearly injuries all over the place. That receiver core was just decimated seemingly by injuries most of the year. That's a lot for Oklahoma State to withstand. It's a lot for any program to withstand, and you're just going to have some of those years where injuries hit you, things don't come up at the right time like they should, and you struggle through a season like that. But again, I would say the good news is like that's pretty much the floor. Your floor is not 4-8. Your floor is not 3-9. Your floor is really 7-5 under Gundy. So I have no doubt that Gundy's going to be back. Be interested to see what happens with Spencer Sanders next year. But yeah, when Spencer Sanders is playing either very banged up or not at all, I can see how the offense does go from 45 points a game to 13 points a game. So I know that's painful. And man, I felt like watching that last game, I was like, it did not feel like an inspired Oklahoma State team. It was a rainy day. Didn't look like it was as packed as it typically would be at Boone Pickens Stadium because of that. So just ended with a thud. For sure ended with a thud. And some of it too, Eric, is like losing to Kansas, getting blown out, losing to K-State and getting absolutely totally waxed. So I get it. It's not even just that you finished the year on a slide. It's that you finished the year on a slide getting clubbed in some of those games. Not easy to take. That is not easy to take at all. But Oklahoma State will be back. You guys will be back. Gene, what's up, Gene? Gene says, charge on UCF, the worst, best UTF team we've ever had. That's an interesting one. Let me go pull up the UCF schedule here. The worst, best team UCF has ever had. I will say this, and maybe it's partially just my ignorance. Maybe it's that there have been enough other like really big storylines going on in the Big 12. I just have not. I have not seemingly heard a whole lot about UCF or like from UCF fan. It seemingly has been a quiet trip to the road to the AAC championship game for Cincinnati. A fairly quiet road to the AAC title game for UCF. Did I say Cincinnati? For UCF. Um, Whereas I think of UCF as brash, boisterous, 2017. I still remember all of that. I loved it, by the way. But claiming the national champs, a lot of smack talk, very brazen about the program. It doesn't feel like it's been quite the same, although I'm not paying super close attention to it. The losses to Navy, East Carolina, and Louisville throughout the year. I think maybe even if like the Navy game hadn't happened, we'd probably be hearing a little bit more. That was a definite damper late in the year and a total shock to lose that game. But now, I mentioned it, you could be looking at UCF the last 6 years going to a New Year's Six Bowl every other year. That's a pretty damn good run as a program and a pretty good way to set yourself heading into the Big 12. And that's another advantage I think UCF has. I mean, Gus Malzahn is certainly no stranger to Power 5 football, no stranger to the SEC. He knows what it takes to win at basically the highest of high levels in the SEC. I think that will help. It'll help ease UCF's transition here into the league. And I'm pretty bullish about what UCF can be long term. So congratulations, Gene. Congratulations and best of luck going into that AAC championship game. Oh boy, man. All right. I got all kinds of donations I need to still get through here. All right. I'm gonna try and do it in like 10 minutes or so. So if you do have something, click the $ below the chat box where it says say something. If you want to hop in on the chat tonight, I'll try and give you about 10 more minutes or so here and get to the rest of the donations. Joe, what's up, Joe? Joe says, congrats to the Cats. My Pokes went through the damn injury nightmare you guys suffered last year. Good luck to Big 12 teams in bowl season. Well, thank you, Joe. You're right. K-State back-to-back years went through major quarterback injuries, which was really hurt. But at the same time, it did get Will Howard a bunch of experience, and maybe that's paying some dividends now for K-State where they're at right now. So there's a positive message. There's a positive spin for you guys. Maybe there's something there. But Joe, you're right. Injury nightmare for Oklahoma State this year. Absolutely. Absolute injury nightmare. And I hope Spencer Sanders is able to put a better spin on his career, whether it's going to end at the end of this year after a bowl game or what he's going to do. I like that guy. I like the progress that he made throughout his career from where he was at earlier when he took a lot of crap from people. It's been a cool story. So I hope he gets to cap it off in better fashion. MH, what's up, MH? Hey, John, Neilio here. That's right. What's up, Neilio? How you doing, man? Thank you for the support. Neilio says, great show as usual, and go Cats. Indeed. I hope you're going to get a chance to go to Arlington, Neilio. I saw that K-State's student ticket allotment went really fast. Well, there were still a bunch of students already in line, so K-State had to request and then buy more student tickets. So the response has been pretty crazy here around – I'm in Kansas City, but around Manhattan and Kansas City. Like, I think you're going to see a lot of K-State fans attend. The split on attendance is going to be really intriguing to me to see how that goes. TCU obviously is right there, but it's such a small school, small enrollment. K-State fans will travel. I mean, K-State brought a pretty good crowd at the beginning of the year last year. Sorry about that. K-State brought a pretty good crowd at the beginning of the year last year to play Stanford at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. So I anticipate K-State will bring a lot of folks there. A lot of folks. I've tried to turn off this is going to make me sound like an idiot. Like the connection from my phone to the computer. I don't like that it does that when it calls. It just brings it up on the computer. But actually, who was calling there is my buddy Cole from the Fremont podcast. And we're talking about travel plans and how we're getting this all set up for Arlington this weekend. So that is very appropriate. But anyway, Neilio, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting, man. Thank you for supporting the Cats. And I hope to see you in Arlington. If not, I know that we'll be cheering in unison for the Cats for sure. You know, it's good when I start to look down and I start laughing at what the next donation is going to be and what I'm about to read. It's even better when I see that it's got the little asterisks. So as in like the little stars, so I know there's a curse word coming up here. Matthew says, blanket OU fans, especially the ones of the Jones that were being extremely rude when it was 17-0. However, being able to chant SEC at y'all was sweet. Oh, I bet that was. Nothing hits quite like the SEC chant. at Texas or Oklahoma. When you get a chance to pop that one off, nothing hits quite like it. And actually, if you're a K-State fan, I've done it to Missouri a couple times now. You had the Missouri game this year that K-State won 40-12. K-State also beat Mizzou the last time they played before they left for the SEC in 2011, and I can remember a good hearty one there. Nothing hits quite like it. It is a great mocking chant. If you're Baylor and you're clubbing Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl, that's another great time to deploy that. So I can imagine you had a lot of fun with that. And what are you telling me? Oklahoma fans were acting mouthy when their team was ahead on the. Are you? I don't know. Not sure that I can believe that. Not sure that I can buy that. I'm sure they were. Although Sooner fans really, toting a 6-5 record into that game, you're going to be that loud and mouthy at 17 and hey, whatever. You do you, and it worked out how it worked out. Ball don't lie, as they say. Ball don't lie. Ema Tom, thank you. Thank you for the donation and the support. Ema Tom says, Cats were the better team in Fort Worth when Rubley didn't play. Nervous about Savage being out, but have high hopes. Let us know if y'all do a tailgate. Go Cats. I will, Ema Tom. To my knowledge, there are no real plans for that, at least for like a formal tailgate like we had this past weekend for the podcast. But if we kind of are able to formulate something and get together, I'll try to just like tweet out. Just follow me on Twitter, at JL Kurtz on Twitter. We'll try to get the word out there about where we're at. Come hang out. It was really fun to hang out at our 3-Ma KCSN tailgate Saturday before the KU game, meet a lot of people who listened to the pod. That was awesome. So I would love to do it. Would love to do it. I will definitely let you know, Ema Tom. Hopefully we meet up. Hopefully I'll see you out there in Arlington. And I mean, I tend to agree with you. I think at worst, K-State was certainly even with TCU when Jake Rubley was not in the game. But those two possessions, which again, turnover on downs, interception, that were just gifting TCU points and great field position. That was really what swung it. Along with, again, remember this too, Ema Tom, Daniel Green got hurt in that game. I preached that into the ground to you guys. That was the bigger factor in the game. K-State lost arguably their best defender, certainly one of them in the game, and that made a big difference. That was when Kendre Miller really started to go off after that. So K-State, Daniel Green's playing at a really high level right now. Knock on wood. Assuming that he's going to be healthy throughout this game, I think that will make a big difference also. James, what's up, James? James says, I would like a fundraiser to buy out Dana. I think he's fine as an OC, but he's not head coach material. Ask anyone from West Virginia. Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I'm going to bring up Houston schedule again here, which is another one I feel like I do every single week. Oh, boy. Okay, Houston lost to Tulsa. All right. Yeah. Not a great way to end the year. Dana, man, you had built up so much positive momentum. And a chance to finish the year 8-4, and instead turns into a loss to Tulsa. Yeah, I get that. Dana seems to me like he has a bit of a ceiling as a head coach. It's maybe around that, like last year notwithstanding. I get it. It was a great year at Houston. But if we're talking about like competing in a Power 5 league, I don't know. It feels a little bit capped to me at like 8, maybe 9 wins. He had that great team a couple of years ago with Will Greer and David Sills at West Virginia. And that was a little bit disappointing. When they maybe should have won the league with that kind of a team. So, yeah, I'm sure you would get that sort of response from West Virginia fans who are also not happy with their current head coach. I'm dubious on that one. It's tough. I think it's like a tough spot to fire him, especially based on, Houston's had some great years, but it's not been consistent success, certainly recently with that program. So I would be a little careful with that. Could be a be careful what you wish for situation. But I also understand wanting more and feeling like there is a higher ceiling with somebody else. I would agree with that. Robert, what's up, Robert? Thank you for the support, my friend. Robert says, was in Austin over the long weekend and went to the Texas game. Austin rocks. No reason that Texas last championship was in 2009. Truly doing less with more. Wreck 'em. Well, you're damn right about that, Robert. I mean, Austin is awesome. I mean, I'm not here to argue anything about that, but I think it's too awesome. It's another one, kind of an evergreen take of mine. But I think one of the biggest problems that they have is trying to rein everybody in when there's so much else going on. When there are Lambo dealerships out there willing to give you NIL deals. I vividly remember one of the times I went to Austin, showed up on like a Thursday. It was like a Thursday at noon. We were like having lunch at a bar in Austin Thursday at noon, and a group of students walked in and they started doing. They were like shotgunning Red Bulls, but when you puncture it and you put the little hole in it, they would drop a shot of vodka in there. So it was like shotgunning Red Bull vodkas at like noon on a Thursday. I mean, like there are a lot of distractions in Austin. And I think that makes it harder to get everybody super focused. Throw in to the mix all of the extra boosters and all that nonsense that you have going on there and cooks in the kitchen. Too much going on in Austin. But you're right. You're right. There is no reason they shouldn't be able to attract the best of the best talent wise. May not be holding on to Xavier Worthy, by the way. Xavier Worthy, there's been transfer rumors about him, Texas's star wide receiver, and he's now scrubbed all mentions of Texas from his Instagram page. So all these Texas fans trying to make the case for the Sugar Bowl. May not have Xavier Worthy. Bijan Robinson, I would think, is not going to play in that game because of the draft forthcoming. I don't know. Things may be falling apart a little bit there. Boy, Devil Frog. I see this was not even a donation. I see Devil Frog. John, you were crapping on TCU when they fired Gary Patterson last year. Did I crap on TCU for firing Gary Patterson? I believe, Devil Frog, I came here and said I watched the K-State-TCU game in person last year in Manhattan, and I thought that was one of the worst coach games I've ever seen out of anybody, and it was from Gary Patterson. So, no, I 100% understood TCU getting rid of Gary Patterson. Like, I think you are sorely mistaken there, my friend. I fully support that move. I was not 100% on board with Sonny Dykes being a particularly inspiring hire. So maybe that's what you're referencing. I was wrong about that. Everybody seemingly was wrong about that. The guy's been absolutely magnificent. And I think it underscores again the point of how important it was to make a change and get out from under what Gary Patterson had become, which was it was just a stale program. No, I don't have hate for TCU. I was grumpy at the time about the game because mainly of the stories of your students throwing beers all the way around. But I don't know. There's not really any hate flowing here. I certainly hope K-State wins the game. I've also been sticking up for you most of the year, Devil Frog. So this just seems to me like the typical, and we do it. I get it. We rage against the machine here at this channel too. But it's like, if you're going to be in some media realm, whatever you want to consider this, and have an opinion, people with their fandom, they're always going to think you're out to get them and just see what they want to see and hear what they want to hear. But I would tell you, Devil Frog, I do not think you're very accurate with that opinion. Anyway, Daniel, what's up, Daniel? Daniel says, go Purdue. Rooting for Purdue in the Big Ten championship game. I don't even get me started on the Big Ten West, dude. Iowa, all you had to do was go beat Nebraska on your home field, and you can't do that to get to the Big Ten championship game. At least that would have given us, the meme, continuing the meme there of Iowa somehow with that offense backdooring its way into the Big Ten championship game. Now it's Purdue, and it's just kind of like, okay. And just not as sexy of a storyline to me there. It would be really interesting to shake things up if they won the Big Ten championship, but I don't know. Then we may wind up with like both Michigan and Ohio State in the play. I kind of would prefer Michigan just win, be undefeated, just take up that spot. Don't open the door for any other nonsense with that, because by virtue of Michigan's win, I truly think like Michigan could lose that game by 20 and still make the playoff. They waxed Ohio State. And they have not done much else of note the entire year on that schedule, but they waxed Ohio State while Blake Corum was injured and barely playing. So they're going to be in no matter what. But hey, for upset's sake, it would be hard for me to watch that game and not root for Purdue, not root for the little guy there. So I get it. I do get it, Daniel. I do get it. I understand it. And thank you for supporting. Thank you for supporting the channel as always, my friend. Rob, what's up, Rob? Rob says, sorry, John, disagree. I want KU 0-12 every year, and beating them by 60 plus is fun as hell. I want nothing but bad things for them. FKU. Well, okay. Yes, I get it, Rob. If you gave me my choice, like, hey, as satisfying as that was, having a more competitive Kansas and getting that win after they've been chirping all year versus beat them by 50 every year and have them win 0-2 games, I would definitely choose beat them by 50 every year. But you have, in the aftermath of it, it is more fun in that moment to still have that. So I get the point that you're making, Rob. You're right. And if I'm thinking about what's better for K-State and having to try and recruit in state and all those things, yes, it would be beating them by 40 every year, like has been the norm over the last 15. So I get it, Rob. I am with you, but there is definitely a part of me that's like, man, that was fun. It was fun to have that. Michael, what's up, Michael? Michael says, Utes luck out again in mediocre G6 conference. I'm not going to talk a ton of smack on the Pac-12 really in terms of what they've been on the field this year, because I think it's been a pretty good year for that league. Like USC, I think is worthy of playoff consideration. Utah, I think, is worthy of where they're at. They are just so damn tough every single year. Oregon has been pretty good. Oregon State, Washington State, they've both been pretty good. Washington revitalized. I don't know. I think there's actually a lot of good that's happening out there in the Pac-12 in terms of what they are on the field. So I luck out. I don't know. It's hard for me to say Utah is lucking out because of how consistent they've been as a program here lately. But also, I have not followed their season as closely as I'm sure you have, Michael. I haven't. And I don't particularly like Utah fans after seeing the arrogance that they have. So now, actually, that I'm talking myself back around to your side here, Michael. Maybe I should just, you know what? Utah lucked out. You guys lucked out. Didn't deserve it at all. There we go, Michael. I'm on the same page. Bud, thank you for being here. Bud, my friend, incredibly, incredibly generous as always. Thank you so much for that. Bud says, thanks to so many OU fans for coming to Lubbock. East side of Jones Stadium was loaded with Sooners. Where does Tech go for their bowl game? Lubbock Guest House. Yes, if you're going to Lubbock, if you need anything in Lubbock, make sure you hit up LubbockGuesthouse.com. Bud has your hook up there. Thank you for being such a great supporter of the channel, Bud. And hey, congratulations to your Red Raiders for that win over Oklahoma. I would imagine there probably were a lot of Sooner fans that made the trip for that game. Where does Tech go for their bowl game? Let's see here. Let me see. Looking at some of these earlier, so let me just pull it right back up. CBS Sports Bowl projections. I'm just picking CBS because I happened to be on it earlier, but give you a quick rundown here. And of course, all I'm getting is New Year's 6 games. All right. 1 second, people. 1 second. Oh, now I'm getting ESPN bowl projections from 2019. This is going great. This is going great. Let me think through this. We got Alamo. We've got whatever they're calling the one in Orlando. Is it still Camping World? I don't even know if it's still Camping World at this point. You've got the Liberty Bowl. So I would think that's probably in play. Cheez-It Bowl. Okay, which is in Orlando. That's what we're calling it now. That's right. There's a Cheez-It Bowl, and then I think Cheez-It is like the title sponsor of another bowl game too this year. So a lot of Cheez-Its. But I'm seeing here Camping World Stadium, Cheez-It Bowl, North Carolina versus Texas Tech, or Florida State versus Texas Tech. Which either one of those, that's actually, I mean, for Tech, that's a pretty sexy matchup. I like that a lot. You get a couple of bigger brands there. In North Carolina, you've got one of the guy, a guy who, without this late season slide, may have won the Heisman at quarterback. So that would be a fun game to see how the Tech defense goes up against them. Frankly, I would prefer the Florida State matchup. Just Florida State name value, best team in Florida really this year, and a team that appears to be on the come up there. I think that's fun. I think both of those would be really fun matchups for Texas Tech, better than what you might think for a team that's going to be like in the fourth bowl slot for a conference. So I hope that gives you a nice little update, Bud. Plus, it's Orlando, and the other thing I like about that bowl is, at least as a K-State fan, I've been to, it's been Memphis or it's been Arizona. That's a different spot. Have not been to Orlando. Getting to go to Florida for a bowl game. That's mixing it up a little bit for some of us in the Big 12 who have not been to that game. So I like that element of it as well. But again, Bud, thank you for the support. I hope you're able to go attend the Texas Tech bowl game, wherever it's going to be, and support your Red Raiders. They deserve it. They deserve it. I think there are bright things ahead, and had a hell of a season under Joey McGuire in year one. Greg, what's up, Greg? Greg, thank you for the support. Greg says, great show, John. Keep up the great content on all fronts. Great win at the Bill last night. I do think Wyatt Thompson's play-by-play is one of the best voices calling the Cats. Your thoughts? Oh, man. Well, I have nothing but wonderful things to say about Wyatt Thompson. Getting a chance to work with him for the better part of a decade during my time in Manhattan, one, was just immensely helpful to me. Very valuable resource for me. Helped me through some really tough transitioning times when I was first taking over as a sports director back in like 2014 at K-Man. Great dude, and just one of the genuinely nicest people you'll ever meet. In addition to, yes, he's obviously an excellent broadcaster as well. There's a reason that he's headed to the Kansas Association of Broadcasters Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Famer. I think that's enough said. K-State's been very blessed to have Mitch Holthus, who's now the voice of the Chiefs, Greg Sharp, who's now the voice of the Nebraska Cornhuskers, ironically enough, and Wyatt Thompson, Kansas Association of Broadcasters Hall of Famer, back to back as play-by-play voices. Those have been the guys in my lifetime, and it's been amazing to be able to listen to them. As somebody who grew up like play-by-play is what I wanted to do, I've gravitated a little bit away from that now, but that is what I wanted to do and did a lot of. I listened to a ton of those guys, including Wyatt. So very much appreciate him. He's a wonderful representative of the university and a wonderful human. Hope you enjoyed it, Greg, at the Bill last night. I hope you're dry. It was like 40 degrees and raining. That was rough. Daniel says, Daniel, thank you for the donation. Daniel brings up a great point, says the 1995 KU game was the most satisfying for me. Yeah, it's tough to beat that one. KU ranked ahead of K-State in the top 10, both teams in the top 15, and K-State won 41-7. That was a hell of a game. That was a hell of a game, and I love thinking about that one. One of my favorite all-time K-State games, even though I was only 6 at the time that happened. And finally, we get to Noel here. What's up, Noel? Noel says, I love the look of shock, silence, and disbelief on the faces of Ole Miss fans leaving the stadium last year. It was so sweet after hearing the endless hottie toddy. Definitely had the SEC chant going. Oh, yeah. Okay. So Noel, Baylor fan. That's right. And at the Sugar Bowl, clubbing Ole Miss around a little bit last year. I'm sure that was fun. I am sure that was fun. The daunting part here that I'm facing, Noel, is K-State's opponent. So the deal with the Sugar Bowl is that the Sugar Bowl is, according to the language on their website, like contractually obligated to take the second best Big 12 regular season team if the first makes the college football playoff. So if TCU makes the playoff, it would basically mean K-State then, even if they lose the conference championship game, would be in line for that Sugar Bowl spot, according to the language on the Sugar Bowl's own website. Now, is there some room for latitude on that? I've seen K-State get screwed over in bowl game pecking order a million times. So it would not shock me if there is, especially when Texas is the team that's looming there underneath. But I would think that the Big 12 is certainly going to push for the team that's actually sticking around to get in there and satisfy the language of the contract. So I feel pretty good, long story short, about K-State going to the Sugar Bowl no matter what happens in Arlington on Saturday. But the opponent would be either Alabama, Tennessee, or LSU, basically, is what it looks like right now. And so, like, I don't know. I mean, no offense to Ole Miss and Ole Miss last year. I like Lane Kiffin, but those all seem more daunting. Particularly Bama. I'm like, oh boy, there's a part of me that's like, K-State playing Bama. That would be very exciting, but at the same time could go very poorly. I know it's not a quintessential Bama team this year, but I just depend on their motivation level. Tennessee, I feel like much more vulnerable. They don't have Hendon Hooker, but they may be more motivated by the fact that they would be getting back to the Sugar Bowl, and they're kind of more on the come up right now. So I don't know what to really want out of that, but it does all give me a little bit of anxiety as far as how it could go. But I should be more confident. I should just hang in there and be more confident. I'll worry about that when we get to it. For now, it's TCU week. Frogs, I look forward to the challenge this week. We'll have another show midweek before that game actually happens on Saturday, but it should be a very, very fun week. K-State against the Hypnotoad for all the Big 12 marbles on Saturday at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Fun chat, lively chat. You guys know I'm on cloud 9 right now. I'm pretty happy. So hopefully that made for a better chat and an experience tonight for you. If you're catching up, not watching this live, you can support the channel. It's John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo. Also, if you could like the video, I'd appreciate it. If you are watching after the fact, like the video, leave me a comment. Even if it's you hated this about what I had to say, all that helps me with the YouTube algorithm. It's totally free. So I appreciate that. As always, spread the word about the channel on social media, Facebook groups, Twitter, whatever it is. However, you talk to your people, let them know if they're college football fans, if they're Big 12 fans, realignment fans, let them know about the work that we're doing here on this channel. Let them know about the community that we have here on this channel. Hit me up on Twitter at @JLKurtz. I try to be pretty responsive in the DMs. That is an easy way to get in touch with me. So, yeah, we can keep it moving from there. Thank you, guys. I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my Sunday night here. Hope you guys have a great Sunday night, a great start to your week, and I will talk to you all soon. Take care.